Okay, well, welcome, as the Irish would say, Falcha, and you are very welcome here. That's something they would also say, but welcome to our Ask Us Anything DCU Current Student Alumni Panel. Ooh, there we go. So before we jump into all of the great kind of meat and potatoes, no pun intended, Ireland, I hope you get it. Just a little bit about Klein Global Opportunities for those of you who may not know us. We are the study away office based out of the Klein College of Media and Communication. So we offer study experiences, internships, and field experience all around the world, as our peer advisors like to say, on every continent except Antarctica. And we do a lot of different flexible program lengths. So for this particular program that you'll hear about today, we do offer a full academic year as well as the spring semester, but we also do programs in the summer term, and we do short-term break options as well. So maybe winter break, spring break, 7A, 7B courses as well. But before we introduce you to our panelists, a little bit about the program. So Dublin City University is one of the best media and communication colleges in Ireland and also within mainland Europe. With this particular program, you're taking 12 to 15 credits of all DCU courses. So you're enrolling directly into their courses, and you're fully immersed with Irish students and professors. So it's all of you and your Temple comrades, and then, you know, there's no Temple faculty member with you. It's just you all, and then everyone else who is Irish or also an international student. With this program, you will have your global gen ed waiver waived. So the global gen ed requirement for Temple can be waived if you do a study away program that's international and lasts for 28 days or more. So this check off the list right there. Through this program, Klein credit is available for your major, minor, elective concentration. If you're not a Klein student, maybe you want to consider doing a minor within Klein or a concentration. That is totally up to you, or maybe you just need elective credit and this is an option that you're interested in. All of that is great. And with that being said, this is open to all Temple students. So I know our office says Klein Global Opportunities, but really we are open to all Temple students and even students who don't go to Temple. We have Penn State students who do our programs, St. Joe students, you name it, they're all doing our programs. And if you didn't know already, applications are open now. So anything that you hear in this video, if it interests you, we will send follow-up emails after this session to let you know a little bit more about how you can get started on that application, which is due October 10th, and you will get tons of emails about the deadline as well if you're interested. So to get started, I would like for our first two panelists to unmute themselves and introduce themselves with name, major, and just one thing that you really enjoyed about being in Ireland in general. So Leanna, let's start with you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Leanna. I'm a senior advertising major with an art direction concentration. And one thing I loved about being in Ireland was that everyone's really friendly. Like, you will never meet a mean person in Ireland. And there are sheep everywhere. No matter, like, it's true, no matter where you go, where you turn, there are sheep. They're just hanging out. Just for no rhyme or reason, there's just sheep. So I thought that was really great.
I love that. They're just frolicking. That's awesome. Emma, how about you?
Hi guys, my name's Emma. I'm a senior journalism major and I have a concentration in international communications and a minor in gender, sexuality, and women's studies. And one thing that I loved about the DCU program is how independent it was. So you had a lot of free time, and you also had time for classes and things like that, and you just were kind of there on your own and got to explore Ireland. So it was great.
Awesome. And just so you all know, Leanna and Emma work in the Klein Global Opportunities office, but we also have two panelists who did participate in this program, don't work for Go, but we still love them nonetheless. So Kirsten, how about we start with your introductions?
Hi, my name is Kirsten. I'm a senior art direction major with advertising major with a concentration in art direction. I loved everything about the DCU program, but the country of Ireland itself is just really pretty, and I got a chance to explore around it, so it was great.
And Melanie.
Hi guys, I'm Melanie. I'm a senior media studies and production major on the production track. And I agree with Kirsten. I absolutely loved everything about the program, everything about Ireland. I have no bad things to say besides the fact that we had to come home early. But I just I love the people. The people there are literally amazing. Like I could probably live there for the rest of my life. It was so much fun.
I love that. Me too. Excellent. So we're actually going to jump right into some questions, but just so everyone here knows, if you have a question, but you don't feel like unmuting yourself when we do open it up for that, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We have our director for Klein Go, Allie Miller here, and she will be monitoring the chat box so that nothing goes unread. But we're gonna just jump right into it. Are you ready for some questions, guys? I'll take it as a yes. Awesome. All right, so just to kick it off, before you even left, why did you choose a semester abroad at DCU? Let's start with Emma.
Yeah, so I always wanted to study abroad for like at least a full semester, and I kind of got a taste of it. I did a summer program before this, and I just really felt ready to do a full semester program. And I was really interested in DCU because it is like such a great media university in Europe. And they had classes that were very interesting to me. I took one about crime, policing, and the media, and one that was like learning about cultural studies in Ireland, but like through the lens of the media. So the courses were, there were classes that I needed for my journalism major and were interesting to me and I couldn't get at Temple. So that really like steered me in the direction of the DCU program.
How about Melanie? How did you go about choosing this program?
So I've always wanted to study abroad too, but I just wasn't sure where. And of course, everyone's always like, oh, Rome, it's so like cliche, whatever, everyone goes there. But the summer before I studied abroad, I actually went to Ireland with my family and traveled there. And I was like, wow, this is like amazing. This is where I'm studying abroad. Like, I wish I would have studied abroad for a year. Like, that's kind of why I did it, because I already went.
Excellent. So you had a taste of it and you're like, I need to go back immediately.
Yes.
That's awesome. How about you, Leanna?
So before I went abroad, I'd actually never left the United States before. So college was my only opportunity to study abroad since I didn't have that opportunity growing up. And I didn't really have like a place, and I didn't have a preference for a place. It was just a matter of the spring semester of my junior year worked best, and I knew I wanted to be abroad for a full semester. And being an ad major, it worked well that I was able to fulfill major credits and go and take classes. And I really had no expectations going into it other than like I was just hoping to have a good time, and that some days weren't going to be great and other days were going to be like the best days ever. It exceeded all of my expectations, everything. Like, I love Ireland. I'd never shut up about it. So I really have nothing bad to say. And yeah, that's it.
Yes, fell in love. I love that. And then last but not least, Kirsten, how did you go about this? Didn't you have family in Ireland? That's
Yes.
your heritage.
So my grandparents are from Donegal. So ever like since my whole family's been like dying to go back and stuff. So I actually had family member over there, so we got to meet them. So it was a great like chance to be able to go over there. But yeah, like I needed to fill the history credit, so I was like, why not? Like, let's do it. And yeah, I just loved it. Like, I'm so happy I did it.
Excellent. So everyone had kind of different but also similar reasons for why they chose this program, and they're all totally valid, which I love. And then next question, I kind of kicked it off with this, but just a little bit more about what did you enjoy most about living in Dublin in particular? Ireland is a small country, it's technically an island, but what about the city of Dublin did you just enjoy the most about being there? Let's kick it off with Melanie.
Okay, so I loved at first the transportation was really confusing. but we got it. We were fine. I think the transportation's easy after you learn how to do it or just start using taxis. But I just loved how free it was, and like everywhere you went, like you never really didn't feel safe. You kind of always felt safe. The food was amazing. Everywhere, like we walked everywhere. You were like exercising when you weren't meaning to, like whatever. But I just loved how free it was and how there's always something to do. Like you were never bored.
Definitely. Dublin is such a walkable city and the food really is good. Super fresh bread and butter. I miss it every day. How about you, Emma?
Yeah, Mel definitely touched on this, but DCU is about 15 minutes outside of the city center, and it's super easy to get there by the bus system. So you literally just like, we lived on campus, so we just walked to like, I don't know, like a 5-minute walk, if that, to the bus stop. And then, 15, 20 minutes later, we were in the city. They have a bunch of free museums that I got to wander around a little bit. Stores, like great restaurants, bakeries, like pretty much anything you can imagine. And Dublin is a really like manageable city. I always say that about Philadelphia as well, but if you are comfortable in Philly and can get yourself around Philadelphia, you can get around Dublin no problem. Public trans is easy and everyone is willing to help you out too if you ever need directions.
Yeah, that goes back to that friendliest people ever thing. So definitely.
And they love Americans.
Yes. We have a good relationship as the US with Ireland for a lot of different reasons, but everyone's so nice and they love us, so it's fine. And Kirsten, how about you?
So I had a lot of like free time. I was taking like 4 classes. So I felt like it was a good opportunity to go down to the city of Dublin. So the transportation was very easy, but I also like felt very comfortable in the city. Like I kind of felt like it was just like a smaller version of Philly. I don't like very smaller, but like the cobblestone streets and stuff. It was very homey.
Definitely. I got that vibe too.
Mm-hmm.
And Leanna, how about you?
I guess just going off what everyone said, like everyone touched on the main points. I think one of my favorite things was like you could just go anywhere in the city and never be bored. I think Melanie and Emma said this. But also there's so much rich history in Dublin and just Ireland in general. So you could be walking down Dublin and you pass like a building and it just happens to be the post office where the revolution like ended. And it's just like you kind of take it all in, you realize like the history of the city and then just like the country in general. And the country in general is also very manageable as well. Like you can get across the entire island in like 3 hours and then like going east to west and then probably like north to south might be 6 hours, not even. So it's lovely and manageable. Yeah.
Definitely. And one thing I always like to mention to people, because I think I get enjoyment out of the shock factor, but 49% of the population in Dublin alone is under the age of 30. So it's a super young city, tons of different universities there. You have Trinity College, you have UCD, Dublin City University. It's just young and there's so many students around that you can make friends with, honestly. Allie Miller actually lived in Dublin for a couple of years. What did you enjoy most about living in Dublin, Allie?
I'm trying to think of something new because it was a manageable size city. I liked the affinity that I was able to create so quickly. And I say affinity that, I found my favorite, coffee shops or restaurants, and people remember you and they create a rapport with you and they make you feel at home very quickly. And I really enjoyed that there aren't really strangers there. They're just, people whose names you don't know, because you can start a conversation, I think, with anyone. And the kind of romanticism that there is around Ireland, that it's such a small place with such a very big history and a big impact, especially on folks in the US. So when you actually get to be there and talk to folks who are Irish and hear from their perspective, I think it really just was really interesting to hear what they thought about Americans and how we view Ireland. There are sheep, there's a lot of Guinness, but there's so much more to it that you get to be a part of.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Let's just keep moving. So next question is, what were some similarities and differences that you noticed between studying at like Temple's main campus versus studying at DCU? So Emma already kind of touched on the types of classes she was taking, but were there any differences or similarities between actually going to class while you were in Dublin? Kirsten, let's start with you.
Yes, so one big difference I felt as if like Temple's much bigger than DCU. DCU, like the classes were like probably a 5-minute walk from your apartment you were staying at, but it was just a smaller university. Other than that, I think the class meetings were the same. You still go to your lecture.
Excellent. Yeah. So you still get some similar vibes of like, I'm in a lecture, but I also knew that there were some kind of smaller seminar courses. Emma, could you tell us more about those?
Yeah, so I had 3 classes over there. One was 6 credits. So my 3 credit classes, we met about once a week, which is also different than Temple because usually we meet either 3 times a week or twice, obviously. So we met once, and then my 6 credit class, I had a lecture one day, and then the next day I would go back for a smaller seminar. So the lecture was probably like 50, 75 kids, and then the smaller seminar was about probably 15 of us, and so you definitely got that more like in-depth conversation. I would also say assignment-wise for classes, I don't know if this is like a later question, but a lot of the classes are just either like an exam or a final paper at the end of the semester. You do have readings throughout the semester, but it does really come down to the last assignments. And then just like last few things I'd say is there are still like a bunch of clubs you can join on DCU's campus, very similar to Temple's, and there's a lot of the same like offices. They have an office for international students that you can go to if you need any assistance. There's a gym that we had access to, so it's very similar like amenities as Temple offers.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And I know, Leanna, you actually joined a few different student organizations. If you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I had a lot of free time in Ireland, considering that I was only taking 4 classes, and usually I'm working and taking 6 classes when I'm at Temple. So I decided to just go with it and join a bunch of clubs. So I joined Tea Society, and it sounds exactly like it is. Like it was just a group of friends that I had met and joined, and they just like sat around and drank tea, and we would watch movies or play video games or board games. And it was just a great way to like meet people and meet other Irish students. And then I know all 4 of us were in the International Society, so that's a really great thing to join because they not only do you meet like other international students and Americans, but they take you around Ireland for like pretty cheap. And you do like local events at DCU or in Dublin, but then you also like, I know they had a trip to Galway, or they had a bunch of hiking trips, and they've gone to the north before, like they've gone to Belfast, I'm pretty sure. So they'll take you all around. And then what else did I do? I'm trying to remember this. It feels like another lifetime going to Ireland. So
You went surfing. You learned how to surf.
I did. Yes, I learned how to surf. There was a surf and sail club, and they had a surfing trip, and so they were supposed to go in one in April, but coronavirus happened. But I went in February, and I went out to Western Ireland, and it was like only 90 euros for transportation, accommodations, the surfing lesson, and like the wetsuit. And they took us out on the coast, and they just like, we spent like 3 hours like learning how to surf, and they had instructors. It was a really great time. It was hailing the whole time, so we're still unsure if that was actually safe or not to do, but like very much enjoyed that. And then there was a rock climbing club that I did that was like pretty casual, like you just drop in and hang out and rock climb, and that was another like great social outlet to meet other Irish students. And then I did do some work for the campus newspaper since I'm a designer, so I did some designs for them. And then I met a girl who ran the swap shop, which is basically this like thrift shop where you brought your clothes in and you could like trade it out for clothes. So I helped her with that every Wednesday.
You did
anyways, yeah. Anyways, there's a lot of things you can do and a lot of opportunities to meet other Irish students, which is what I was able to meet a lot of like new people that I wouldn't have met in my classes or just like staying in my bubble. Yeah.
Excellent. And Melanie, is there anything you want to add?
I can't believe they all forgot this, but we all played soccer and I was the captain. They literally all forgot, even though we were terrible. But we were the only team that was American and out of the country. Well, like out of Europe. Yeah, we were terrible, but it was so much fun. And we met people doing that. Like they would hear our accent and be like, oh my, yeah, only girls. They were like, oh my God, you guys are American. And they would start talking to us. And then we would just see them on campus and they would be like, hey, what's up? And like they would remember us. But yeah, everything, like I kind of forget the initial question, but everything is literally like you're on campus. Like there was never a time where I was like, I want to go home, or I still felt like I was at home when I was there. Like it never really hit me until I had to come home. But yeah, pretty much everything was fun. We did a bunch of clubs together. The international club I would definitely suggest because that's where you do all the trips. That's where you meet all the people who are also studying abroad from other countries, and then you just like go out together or you go to the on-campus bar together. And yeah.
Awesome. You guys give such good answers. I love this information. So moving on, now that you're back, so you probably, I know some of you have internships or have interviewed for different internships as well. How did you utilize the experiences that you got during your study abroad program when you returned to campus? Like, is this something you talk about when you're interviewing for an internship or when you're like trying to get an e-board position? Like, how do you utilize this experience when you come back, kind of? Kirsten, let's start with you.
Okay, yes. So I had an internship this past summer with a nonprofit called Ride Hard, Breathe Easy. And the interview process, I did mention my study abroad and how it would influence me, like stepping out of my bubble and like finding who, like just like meeting new people and stuff. So yeah, I feel like it was a great opportunity to bring up, like especially in the future, you can make connections on like how you went there and stuff.
Definitely. Emma, how about you?
Yeah, so well, obviously I work at the Klein office now, so that definitely helped me that I was abroad last semester. So I have that on-campus job, but I have another on-campus job that I definitely brought it up. I think the Dublin program really helped me learn more about international media, which is something I want to eventually go into. So it kind of opened my eyes to like possibilities of grad school abroad and how to kind of get into the media industry in another country, which was really exciting. And it's always something that employers are looking for. I think studying abroad for like a full semester, that's like while you're there, it might not feel like you've been there for that long, but after you come home, you realize like, I mean, we were only there for 2 months, but we were supposed to be there for like 4.5. Like that's a pretty decent amount of time to be living outside of the country on your own, like completely. So just being able to like adapt to changes and be really independent is definitely something that employers will be looking for in the future.
Definitely. And how about you, Melanie?
So I talk about studying abroad no matter if it's a job interview or not. Like I always bring it up. Like no matter what the topic is, somehow I incorporate Ireland into it. But I always feel like people like it that you studied abroad because they know that you can do your like be your own independent self and you're like open to meeting other people that you probably would never thought you like would ever talk to like on campus or something. But I think people like that. Like I haven't had an internship yet, but I do know people who really like the fact that you studied abroad and that you're like not I can't think of the word, but like you're ready to open yourself up and not be scared to do whatever like you're supposed to do.
I like that answer. Excellent. And how about you, Leanna?
Well, I also work in the Klein Go office with Emma and Allie and Gabby. So shout out to Allie and Gabby for letting me go to DCU and bringing me on the team. So that definitely helped. And I also haven't had an internship yet, but like Melanie said, like like it is kind of like a flex, not like kind of a flex, not really that you went abroad. Um, but it's also like a way to like it really expands your worldview when you're going abroad. And like Ireland is very similar to America, but it's also like has that part of the UK. But I think their history, like just the way they go about things, like their history with the UK, definitely like shapes your worldview, especially like up America. Like I definitely look at America differently than I did before I went abroad. And so I think with like new perspectives and being able to like relate to like a bigger group of people or bring in new things will help and set you apart in a professional environment.
Definitely. Excellent. So this was kind of already brought up because yes, COVID-19 struck starting in February and then right into March. So definitely talk about that, but also were there any other things that were challenging for you while you were studying abroad, and kind of what did you do to get over or take steps to overcome it for the time being? Let's start with Melanie.
Okay, well, I still am not over the fact that I'm not there anymore, but pretty much I think we all cried when we found out we had to come home. It was awful. My mom was literally in the air on her way over while we got the email that we had to go home or that we should come home. But I think it's just the fact that like you really like I really appreciated it, like what I did there when I had the time. I think that like really without COVID, I would kind of be like, oh yeah, I did it. It was fun. I'm gonna do it again. Like, but now it's kind of like, wow, like I actually got to do it. Some other people didn't get to do it when they were supposed to, like over the summer or this semester. But I really just think it like made me open my eyes and like appreciate things more.
Definitely. And how about Emma?
Yeah, having to come home early was really difficult, and it did take me like a few months to really get like to come to terms with that. But I think while I was there, I never like fully like I never felt very homesick, which was surprising to me because I am really close with my family. I have two sisters. They also live in Philly. I lived right across the street from one of them last year, so I was really nervous about not having that like them as a support system really close like they always have been. But something that helped me when I was feeling a little like either lonely or missing my family a little more than usual, I would, schedule specific times. Like I knew on Thursdays when I was eating dinner, my sister had her lunch break. So we would schedule times like Thursday night, I would call one of my sisters. So, just taking the time to really have that family interaction or talking with your friends. Like I called my roommates a few times because so even when you're traveling and you're meeting new people and you're having all these new experiences, there's still like part of you that wonders like, oh, I wonder what my roommate's doing tonight, and like what would I be doing if I was home with them. So making sure you just reach out was definitely something that helped me.
Excellent. Yeah. The sense of FOMO, I hear that from a lot of students, but then they come back and they're like, I didn't miss out on anything because I did all the things that I wanted to do. So Leanna, how about you with this question?
I mean, that's hard because obviously like leaving early sucked and it was really hard to say goodbye to like friends you made. And then I'd also met my boyfriend while I was abroad. So I kind of had to say bye to him and be like, I don't know if I'll ever see you again. Like, peace out. So that was definitely a very challenging experience. But I would say like you definitely experience a new kind of lonely when you go abroad. Especially like I didn't really know anybody in the like ahead of time in the group. Like Kirsten and I had a class together. So I was with like very new people in a country by myself. And I think that can like make you feel like very isolated and alone. And I did the same thing as Emma, where like I would reach out and like talk to my mom or talk to my friends at home, but it also like motivated me to like put myself out there and to make friends. And like I was like, I'm not gonna like sit and feel like lonely, like that's fine, but I want to like really like, you know, make the most of my time and really experience this. And the best way to overcome that is to go out and make friends or do things, and just put yourself out there. So
Excellent. And Kirsten, how about you?
Yes, so like Leanna said, I didn't know many people. I actually only knew Leanna, and then me and Mel kind of touched base with each other before we left. But that was like one thing I kind of feared before leaving, was that I was going to get really homesick and not like really have that many friends or anything. But it luckily, like once we got there, we all became like really close. And like like even if there were times that I felt like I was missing out things at home, I would just like, we would stay busy. Like we would always go out, or like, I don't know, we were always just hanging out with each other. And part of me knew like my family was coming to visit, so like it wasn't it wasn't for long, so I just had to enjoy the moment that I had there and stuff.
Definitely. Awesome. Thanks for sharing all of that, everyone. So our last full question, actually. So given all of these experiences and just knowing what you know now after you've gotten back, what advice do you have for students who are thinking about studying away or going abroad, whether it's at DCU or anywhere else? So I know it's like a broad question, but we can do it. Emma, what advice do you have for anyone thinking about doing this?
Yeah, so something that my oldest sister told me when she came back from studying abroad was, if you're thinking about it even a little bit, definitely go. Because after being abroad, like I had so many experiences of, even not even like meeting new people, but even like personal growth experiences, and like learning how to be independent, learning how to live on my own. Like obviously I live on my own at school, but it's a lot different when you're, 6 hours time difference and across the ocean. So if you're thinking about it, definitely look into it and go. And I think, looking back, I did do a lot of the things I wanted to do at the beginning of, like, in the first 2 months I was there, but there were a few things that I just kept going, oh, I'll do that next weekend, I'll go to that museum next weekend, I'll do this event later on in the semester. Like, I have 4 months here. And then all of a sudden I was going home on St. Patrick's Day morning. And I think, just looking back, I would have not really rescheduled anything. I would have done everything that I wanted to do, like, when I got there. And if I wanted to do it again, I would have. So if you go, you know, definitely do a lot of events at the beginning. Not Hopefully you won't get sent home early, but don't take advantage of the time you have there.
Excellent. Melanie, how about you?
Honestly, I would say do it. Like, if you're kind of just like thinking about it to think about it, like, just do it. Like, I've met so many people who are like, oh my God, you studied abroad. I wish I got the chance to do that. Like, I know so many people, blah, blah, blah. Like, the application's really doesn't take that long. And like, pretty much everyone gets accepted. Like, it's so worth it. And we all got to go on trips. I know a different girl who's not here. We took a €5 flight to Scotland for like 2 days. Like, you can do so much out there, like more than you think that you can. Like, you can do as much as you want to, like in the amount of time that you have. But there are like trips that we had planned that we weren't able to go on. But honestly, like, I would just do it. Like, I'm so glad that I got to do it.
Awesome. Kirsten, how about you?
Yes, so I'm like a person that, like, before Ireland, I was like a homebody, like never really thought about like traveling and all that stuff and living on my own. And now, like, since I done it, like I really want to move back to Ireland after I graduate and maybe work there. Like, you get like a sense of independency that you like never really knew you had. But yeah, it's definitely a great opportunity that I think everyone should do during their college experience, because it really like opens your eye to the world.
Awesome. And last but not least, Leanna, any advice?
Um, Wow, I can't top any of this. Yeah, just do it. Just go. Like, why not? Like, if you don't have a legitimate reason that's stopping you, or if you think you can't afford it, there are scholarships. We have Klein Go scholarships. Klein offers general scholarships. If you're not a Klein student, I'm sure your college also has scholarships. Just go, just do it, and don't say no to anything, unless it's dangerous. But within reason. But go and just take in every opportunity, do everything that comes your way, because the last thing you want is to come home and regret not doing something because you just didn't want to, or that it just didn't feel right. Like, just do it. Just do it. And also, like, I remember my mom saying this to me before I left. She was like, it's not every day is going to be magical. Like, you're going to a magical place and it's this magical experience, but remember, like, this is life. And think about it as a temple. Like, temple's kind of magical. Like, you're at college, you're on your own, it's exciting. You're not really like an adult, but you are. But you have days where it sucks or it's boring. And she's like, that's how it's going to be. And so I would say, like, on those days where it is boring or it's hard, or there's not much happening, or it's raining, because it always rains in Ireland and it's too cold to go outside, just stop and appreciate and take it in and really, like, reflect on your time on those days, because you're constantly going and going and going. And so it's nice to have a breather and think about it. That was my long-winded response. Thank you for listening.
Wait,
Yeah.
I have one more thing to add.
Go for
If
it.
you don't want to go because you think you're not going to make friends, I promise you that is not the case, because you will make friends like this. Like, it's so easy to make friends, especially like if you're going with a group who's studying abroad, you're all going to like click the same day because you came together. But then from there, like, your roommates, like, I know we all became friends with Kirsten's roommates and we were joining their club and we were hanging out with them. Like, it's so easy to make friends. And if you are thinking about not going because you don't know anybody, it's a stupid reason and you should go. That's my input.
Excellent. All right, so that was our last full question. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so I can see everyone's beautiful faces. And let's get started with some questions. Were there any questions in the chat? I'm not seeing any. All right, so then from the audience, feel free to, raise your hand. You can unmute yourself, whatever you want to do. Oh, we got one in the chat. Any cultural differences, and how does the process of studying abroad work? So let's have the group address any cultural differences to start, and then we'll kind of talk about the study abroad process. So team, who wants to chime in on any cultural differences in Ireland?
I mean, there's definitely cultural differences, but none that's like, oh my God, like, I can't stand that. It's really like their culture is so similar. That's why it's so like homey. The only thing really is their accent, but you can kind of like, it's so easy to understand like most of them. I really don't think there's too much that that's on the top of my mind. Everything kind of just like flows like it would here. Like, it's really like nothing crazy that I can think of.
Okay. Anyone else want to add to that?
I was gonna say something about when we moved into the dorms, like, we were kind of the first people there. We all ended up having Irish roommates or some international students. So I lived with 3 Irish students. We all had our own room, but like a shared kitchen space. And they are co-ed housing. So the first day I met some of my roommates, one of them was from like a very rural part of like Western Ireland, and she started talking to me and I truly felt like she was speaking another language. And I got really nervous. And I mean, I eventually like figured out what she was asking me, but there are like just small things like that they say that it took me a little bit to like click. Like, they don't just say like, hey, what's up? Like, she asked me, what you getting on about? And it took me like 5 days to figure out that she was just saying like, hey, what's up? So there's that. But other than that, I don't think there was not anything that was like super shocking to me, like that was culturally different while I was there.
One thing I do want to add that's like, I'm sorry, this is so
No.
fast, but like on the streets, they have signs on the ground that say like, look both ways. Because in the US, we kind of, and especially in Philly, we're like, oh, this street goes this way, so I should look that way for oncoming traffic. In Ireland, I would not know how to drive in Ireland if I tried. I could probably do it, but whatever. You have to look both ways. Don't get hit by cars. That's my advice. What were you about to say, Kirsten or Emma?
So one thing that really stood out to me that I thought was like funny, like all like the Irish roommates and stuff would go home on weekends. Like it was like normal there. Like everyone, since the country's so small, it's so easy to get home to. So they would just go right home on weekends. Like it wasn't even questioned upon. Like unlike here, everyone stays or whatever. And then I also felt like in Ireland, it's very not fast paced as in like America is. Like everything is just like go with the flow. I mean, there is some things that are like downtown's maybe a little fast, but still like it's just very calm.
I was just gonna say, to go off of like the driving statement, their street signs are on buildings rather than just like standing on their own. So it took us, the first day that we got there, we were all as a group, there was the 8 of us, we were trying to get to the Guinness storehouse, and I had a map and I thought I knew the way, and we were literally like walking circles and we couldn't figure out which street we were on. So definitely like look at the buildings because they're not just gonna be there.
I'm going to throw in a couple things just because I noticed stuff after living there. And one was the language. So one, the volume. They talk much softer. I don't think I'm loud, but I felt like the loudest human ever when I was there. So immediately I felt like I stood out and that I couldn't hear what anybody was saying. And their cadence is more kind of sing-song, I think, than what we say. And then the slang was just something to catch on to, like saying the lift instead of the elevator, or what's the crack, to say like, hey, what's going on? And that's an Irish word that they use. So I think catching on to little things like that were hard, and they're very indirect in their language and usage of it. So that comes into play if you're interested in dating Irish people, because that makes it very interesting, because I feel like a very bold American person, even though I don't think I'm very bold in my day-to-day. And the last thing is what people wear. And maybe y'all can say that, but like, you know, we tend to have a lot of clothes in the US. We're very into consumer culture. And there they have just like a handful of items that are very plain and you can mix and match. My colleague that I worked with who was Irish had 5 shirts, and I knew his shirts and I knew the rotation of the shirts, and his changing them would be throwing a jumper or a sweater on over it. Be like, oh, I'm wearing something new. So it wasn't weird that he only had 5 dress shirts. That was all he ever needed for work. And so I felt like I got better at mixing and matching and being more comfortable with having less. So those are just some things I noticed about Irish culture.
And okay, so just to address the other part of the question, we will follow up with everyone after this session with an email that links to the KleinGo portal. And honestly, if you're interested in Rome or Japan or anything through Education Abroad, which is the main study abroad office at Temple, it's a pretty similar process with them as well. I'd say to start your process, you definitely want to be talking to academic advisors, talking to your family, trying to figure out, you know, is this the right choice for me? Is it the right time? What classes can I take while I'm abroad? If it's major courses, elective classes. So really starting by doing your research, you know, classes, financially doing your research with scholarships. Leanna mentioned that the Go office does have scholarships that apply to any of our programs. And the same goes for Education Abroad. They have their own scholarships that can go towards their own programs as well. Beyond that, it's really just getting started. So obviously talking to a peer advisor like Leanna or Emma, or even Melanie and Kirsten, they may not work for us, but they've been through the process, and you can definitely talk to them about, you know, how do I get started? But really it's just opening an advising application with the Go office, really just getting to know you a little bit better and why maybe the DCU program interests you. And then from there, it's just getting your application open and started. So like, I think it was Melanie that said it, but the application really doesn't take that long. It's 2 recommendations. So one from a professor or someone that's taught you directly in a classroom environment It can be Zoom, that's fine. It's the way of the world. And then also a character reference. So someone who has seen you outside of the classroom and can attest to your character. So that can be an internship supervisor, you know, no mom, no dad, no family, we will know. And Allie just kindly dropped the link to the Go portal in the chat box. So if you'd like to take a look around our website, there's actually a steps to apply button on the main page, and you can take a full look at the entire process. But essentially, you fill out the application, you'll meet with Allie, probably, or myself. We'll talk about your application, make sure you're good to go. Once you're accepted, you put a deposit down, and that's really like your commitment to the program. So $500 that goes towards your program fee. So it's not like it just sits and goes nowhere. It's paying towards your program. And then from there, it's a lot of prep, you know, pre-departure preparation. You go to a big orientation with everyone that's going. We do some fun activities there. We get you ready to go, help you sign up for your housing, and then you're on your way. So that's a very brief overview of the full process, but please take a look at that link that Allie dropped, and it'll give you a full scope as well. And please stop by our office too. I'll have a slide in a few minutes when we start to wrap that has our virtual advising link that you can write down. You can take a picture of it, and feel free to stop by anytime, Monday through Friday, 10 to 4. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourselves. Yes, no problem, Monica. You can unmute yourselves. Or
Hi. So I guess just my question would be like, how did you guys decide what semester was the right semester to study abroad?
I'll answer. I'm pretty sure Dublin, there was only one semester you could apply for, and the other semester was London, I want to say. I'm not sure, but there's only one semester that is Ireland, I believe.
But I even mean like what like year of like, you know, college?
Oh, so I just chose junior year because I didn't want to do it my last year, and thank God I didn't do it my last year. I wouldn't have been able to because I'm a senior. But I just thought sophomore year might have been too soon because I just needed to take like my classes that I needed for my junior and senior year. So I thought my, what was it, last semester of junior year was like the perfect year. But I know a lot of people who went sophomore year and they said that was great too. But I like junior year.
Okay, thank you.
that's a great question. Other questions? You can unmute yourself. You can throw it in the chat box. I guess I have a question too that I think a lot of students think about but then forget to ask is like, what's the room situation? What was the roommate thing? You know, where did you live?
Yeah, I'll answer this one because I kind of touched on it, but we lived in University Village, College Park. Oh my God, it's been a while. College Park. It was on campus. They have, I think, like 3 or 4 different like on-campus dorm type things, but they're really more like little apartments. So we all had they're like in the quad-ish, like a quad area. So Melanie and Kirsten were in one. I was in another with a girl named Paige. Liana was in a different, like they're called houses, and they're basically your buildings, but they're tiny. They're like 4 stories and like 10 people on each floor. So basically, I lived in like the 2nd floor on one of the sides. Paige was across the hall from me in a different pod, but I had 3 other roommates, like I said. They were all from Ireland. One guy and 2 girls. They were all super nice. We shared a kitchen, but I had my own room and my own bathroom, which was really nice because I had been used to that. You know, I hadn't lived in the dorms since freshman year, so it was nice kind of having that, like my own space. And then they have ones that have single beds and ones that have double beds. But other than that, they're all like, you have your own bedroom.
And did you room with other international students or Irish students?
Sorry. Go ahead, Leanna.
So I think, Emily, did you live with other international students? Someone did. I know Bailey did. She lived with another American. But all of mine were Irish. So I had 2 guys and then 2 girls that were Irish. And they were all from like all over Ireland. And the other thing about like DCU that's different is that everybody goes home on the weekends because they like work at home, or it's like it is really expensive to live in Dublin and have accommodations. So they'll have like weekly accommodations where they live with like a family friend or they live on campus and then they go home to their house. So a majority of the time it was like me alone by myself in the dorm, or I had like one of my other roommates who just didn't want to go home that weekend. So
My roommates, so I had 4, I think there's 4 of us, and it was me, 2 Irish girls, and then I had another girl who was from Japan, I want to say, but she was doing a 4-year program. So she's been living there, and she told me, because I asked her, I said, do you ever like want to go back home? And she's like, no, I hate it there. Like, I want to live in Ireland. So I pretty much just had all Irish girls because I never really saw the girl from Japan, but they all went home like all the time, where they were with their boyfriends a lot. So I didn't really hang out with them. I was kind of like with everyone else who I studied abroad with, but it was nothing like I hated it. It was never like that, but I liked it, I guess.
Yeah, so I had two Irish guys I was like living with, and then one guy was actually from Boston, and he was there for his 4 years, and then another girl who I actually only met once and I like rarely saw her she was from France. So it was like I got along with like 2 Irish kids, but the other 2 like I rarely see because you're just like in your own room and you have your own space. And the only time you like really only see them is if you're on the go or if you're in the kitchen. So yeah.
Nice. Any questions from the crowd, our lovely audience? Feel free to unmute yourself, throw it in the chat. But if not, we can wrap a few minutes early. And it would be really great if our panelists, if you guys wouldn't mind dropping your email addresses, your Temple email addresses in the chat box, just so anyone that wants to reach out or talk more about Ireland or DCU can do that. All right, we got emails coming in, that's great. But otherwise, I will share my screen real quick just because I can show you my last couple slides. Stay connected with us. Like I said before, we have virtual office hours all semester long, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. These pictures are great. There's the bit.ly link right there. You can take a photo of it, bookmark it if you want to, if you love us that much. And then also follow us on social media. So we're really active on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We're always having fun events on Instagram, or we're doing polls about the fun things that you might want to see from our office. So make sure you're following us there. And other than that, I want to thank you all for coming. I can't pronounce that. I've tried many times and it just didn't work out. But thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you have a great night. All right. Bye, everyone.